Welcome to the Asian A.V Club What to Watch podcast. For the last two episodes, we went international and followed the Venice, Telluride, and Toronto film festivals, taking a peek at the big titles that were vying to become potential hopefuls in the award season. Of course, things aren't over yet. As of this recording, we are kind of like in the middle section of the New York Film Festival, where Venice Film Festival Golden Lion winner Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, Jim Jarmusch just made its North American premiere before traveling across the pond to the London Film Festival. I mean, these films go on tour. It's so crazy. So New York FF still has one more world premiere in the form of Bradley Cooper's latest movie, Is This Thing On?, which stars Will Arnett and Laura Dern as a couple separated, which then prompts Will's character to pivot into the stage and become a stand-up comedian, which actually is kind of connected to something that we're talking about in this episode today. And like the Jim Jarmusch film, it's also going to go to London Film Festival. I mean, I've only attended the New York Film Festival the past 2 weeks, and I'm exhausted. But then I take a look at the life of my special guest today, and basically, when I look at what she does on a daily basis, I'm just like, I'm the equivalent of like I'm sitting at home knitting, while the amazing Fawnia Soo Hoo is just like living the best life. Well, quick intro. You're doing really well. A quick intro. Fawnia is freelance fashion and entertainment journalist. For the past decade, her work has shown up in Vanity Fair, The Hollywood Reporter, W Magazine, GQ, and loads more places to list. What makes Fawnia really special is because she has a specialty in costume design, and a lot of her articles talk about the wonderful creative folks that work behind the scenes in film and television, which is stuff that I like nerd out for. So that's why I reached out to you and we became friends this way. Yeah. And Fawnia also covers weddings and style trends, and launched a year ago, maybe a year plus ago.
A little bit over a year ago, yeah.
Oh my God, year plus ago, launched the popular pop culture Substack Whatever Nevermind with her writing partner Cheryl Wishlover, who basically look at pop culture through the lens of Gen X and also their kind of writing backgrounds and the stuff that they specialize in. So, to me, having you on my pod is kind of like a flex. I think it's so cool that you said yes to this, and you know, I just have to be on my best behavior. Because, you know, naturally, I just want to cuss and be like, but I'm like, oh, no, I have to be like a good boy because Fawnia's on. Hello. Thank you so much for coming on to this.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, I love the synergy. I feel like we met on Substack, like when I first launched or co-launched Whatever Nevermind, and we became immediate friends. And yes, we do have lots of professional interests in common. Weirdly, we also have like mutuals, like personally too. So yeah. Perhaps it was meant to be.
The Asian social circle is small, and if you're connected to places like Hong Kong or other places, you know, like that, inevitably we will know people that know people that know us, you know. And so the reason why you know there's the other synergy that I have is because, you know, basically when I go, like you and I, we text a lot, and what always cracks me up is that you live on a parallel universe. It's like we both cover almost the similar TV and film stuff, but you're at another event that I'm not invited to, or like I go to something that you're like, wait a minute, that's going on. And so it's always this like we should be at the same places, but we're never at the same thing. You know, it's so weird.
Maybe it's good because then we can get like, you know, the tea from the other person. So we're just like everywhere, you know.
We are everywhere all at once, but nowhere together, which sucks. And what I love is that I feel like you're the perfect co-host this episode because we watch similar things, and even if we don't, you're open to watching other things too, which is why it's like the perfect kind of like host. Hey, thank you for saying yes to this. I love your top. This is really I had to up my because normally I'm just t-shirt, and I'm just like I'm wearing a shirt with like prints on it just to like match.
Well, I wanted to be kind of on theme.
Oh,
so I feel like this is on theme for maybe like a couple of things that we're going to talk about.
Nice,
possibly first one. I think.
Well,
shirts like this.
Anyway. I wanted to ask you, like, recently, because, you know, I really do look at the stuff that you do on a daily basis, and I'm just like, girl, she's invited to these things and that. But can you talk about like what something maybe that's happened recently that is kind of like that kind of rings memorable to you that's pretty cool?
Well, I love the Bell House, which actually Marc Maron, who we will discuss, he talks about it sometimes on his podcast, as do Las Culturistas, because those like Matt and Bowen and their crew always go there, which is why I went on Monday because Josh Sharp and Aaron Jackson. I refer to them as the Dicks guys because they did Dicks the musical
All
where they
right.
wrote, which I thought was an excellent movie. They had Jeff Hiller come on, and recent Emmy winner Jeff Hiller from Somebody Somewhere come on and do improv, which coincidentally I had also interviewed Tyler Nisoloni, dear Tyler, who designed Jeff Hiller's pink Emmy winning his winter suit. Um, so that
Which
was on.
I
Sorry.
was like so obsessed with that because I thought it was a Chanel outfit because obviously of the like that thing. But then
Yeah.
when I read your article, I was like, wait a minute, that's an original, which is super
Yeah.
cool. And so can you talk about like what, how do you even know to like talk to this guy? Like, was that after you saw him on the Emmys, or were you ready on his like radar to like do something with him?
No, well, immediately after Jeff Hiller walked the carpet, I asked actually my friend Emma Fraser, who is also on Substack. I was like,
Nice.
"Did you catch it?" Because we always watch together, like remotely, because she's in the UK, along with my friend Aldo. So I was like, "Who made that suit?" And then she just like immediately DM'd me. She's like, "It's Dear Tyler." And then I followed him on Instagram, and then he immediately followed me back. And then when Cheryl and I were trying to figure out what to do for our special issue, we decided to do it like a magazine. Um, and I was like, oh, maybe he'll talk to me because, our readers, there's like a pretty big Somebody Somewhere like fan group. And, Jeff Hiller is Gen X.
Yeah.
And he's, so yeah. So I was like, well, I'll shoot my shot. And I just DM'd Tyler and then gave him my pitch. And yeah, and he said yes, which was great. So that was fun. Yeah. So Instagram, you know,
It's a magical place. I
never
mean,
hurts to, yeah.
the what I love about your Substack also is the fact that like you're so on top of like things that are coming out and you talk to the people that's like working behind the scenes on it, which is like super cool. And it's just sometimes like even for me when I'm trying to like find people to like show up on my thing, I'm like slow. I'm just like the thing will come out, the trailer's already out, it's already released, and I'm like, oh, I should talk to this. Like I'm so like behind, like my brain is so like basic about I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I should. And then I forget and like,
I don't think so. You always have a lot coming out, and I feel like, yeah, you have really interesting conversations with people behind the scene or in front of the camera.
yeah,
And one thing about Substack that I've learned and found interesting is that you don't have to. A lot of times, it actually is better if you're talking about something like maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month after, so everyone has a chance to watch it. Because like I feel like I'm always in that mind. Cheryl and I are always like, we have to get out of that like news mindset, like
yeah,
where like we have to get it out now. We
yeah.
have to be the first. Sometimes it actually is beneficial to be like,
Well, there's also a little bit of training to the
yeah,
publicists because they, of course, want pieces out like the
yeah,
weekend of, and then there's been an interesting like kind of conversation with them, which is like, hey, what about after? And they're like, why? And I'm like, no, 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 it's good to have it after because there's that big like wave of like initial press, which is
yeah,
great. But I'm like, I'm part of your continual like coverage, and
yeah,
and I feel like then everybody's chilled out a little bit, and the pressure of like making sure the box office or whatever the viewer numbers is like by then it's just people watch when they want to watch, and therefore these
yeah.
conversations end up being much more interesting, and I feel like that's always like but we have to train them now.
Yeah. It's funny. I told a publicist that one, and then she was like, "Oh, that's actually really good data to know." Because I think, yeah, it's all new to them,
Yeah. Every
So,
everybody's learning. We're all part of this wave. And actually, I want to start talking about some of these wonderful titles that we have. Like always, I like to start off with the documentary film to kind of kick off the movie section. And the one that I really wanted to talk about this week was called "Are We Good?" About the comedian Marc Maron, directed by Stephen Feinartz. So for those of you who don't know who Marc Maron is, he is a pretty acerbic stand-up comedian that's been on the stage since like 1987, and did a major pivot in 2009 when he launched his podcast WTF with Marc Maron. Definitely, he's like an early pioneer of the podcast world, and he also broke the mold of an interview pod because because of Maron's like personality, and also, over the 16 years, he just had these guests show up to his garage in
Yeah.
the Highland Hills, and then just kind of like enter his world. And for like hour plus, like these guys are just, or people just get really relaxed or confrontative. And Maron like deals with his relationships with a lot of these people that he might have beef with, and then he kind of like deals with. But some of the highlights have been like, the late Robin Williams came on his show, and now that's part of this like archive, like as one of the best interviews ever. There's a really funny Kevin McDonald interview one where he thought he was going to talk to the new kids, the kids in the hall comedian, but then the director Kevin McDonald shows up instead, and he's just like, what? And then very quickly met up with the other Kevin, and then did a follow-up interview. And so it's like the Kevin and Kevin podcast. And then of course the one that actually made me even know that he was doing the podcast was the President Barack Obama interview that, like, basically Obama like showed up to this
Oh my
garage
gosh.
and like sat there and did a really great interview. I mean, I know you mentioned that he goes to the Bell House and stuff. Have you been a fan of his for a while, or are you like are you a follower of his work?
I am like a huge Marc Maron stan now, but I'm sort of more recent. I actually know him more. I know him first actually from Glow, as I know him as an actor first,
Yeah.
actually. And then I never really listened to him that much before the pandemic, I want to say, and before Lynn. Because I listened to him a couple times and I was kind of like, this
Yeah.
isn't for me. I was like, he does not do research. He interviewed Kristen Bell and he didn't know she was in Frozen, and I was a little upset. I was like, okay, I can't. But then something changed, and I think it was Lynn, that made him. I don't know. I listen to him religiously now. I want to say for the past like 3 years, and I
Mm,
really love listening to him go on this journey of, going into acting. I think he wants to direct, be like super vulnerable. Also talk about, his fears of the world and politics. Like he's so open and just totally willing to share his vulnerabilities and like his worry. And there's something that I find really like moving about that, especially, he's like a 60-year-old white man. And also he does research now. I think because since he's acting, probably because of his acting, that he does like he'll go and actually like watch people's like, their of and like he knows more now, I feel. And I really love how curious he is. So especially like when he has like younger comics on, like Rami Youssef, and Ronnie Chang, like those are some of my favorite ones,
nice.
actually. Just listening to them like talk about their processes, and then, and also him being like very, like he's curious and he'll ask questions sometimes that maybe like the way he asks. But I know like because he's asking, he actually wants to understand.
Right.
And he was like very respectful of like people's cultures and stuff. And yeah. So anyway, I am a huge fan. So I I appreciated this documentary, I think.
I feel like, so the documentary really isn't about this talented comedian and like his podcast or anything. It actually is kind of enters at the one of the lowest point of his life, in which in 2019, Maron started dating this filmmaker named Lynn Shelton, who did Hump Day, Your Sister's Sister, and she also directed Glow. And she's done multiple TV shows, and she was just one of those like steady filmmakers that were just coming in and occasionally do an indie film and then come in and do like wonderful directorial stuff for like TV series and stuff. And so she's always been a longtime friend of Mark's, and a collaborator. And then they started dating, and basically it was like a new Maron like existed. Like her brightness kind of like changed his
Yeah.
curmudgeon ways, and kind of like, in all accounts, he says she's the love of his life. And so but 2 months into the 2020 COVID lockdown, Shelton died, unexpectedly. And she from an undiagnosed illness. She didn't even know she had what she ended up having. And like literally she fainted, went to the hospital, and then the next day was gone. And so it was just like really too fast. And so we kind of catch up with him at this period, and basically Are We Good, which is his signature sign off on the pod, looks at a guy who's heartbroken, and he's trying to make sense of living, and also of a career, and while trying to fix his broken heart. And so it's a really fascinating look at like, here's a very creative man whose outlet is to like be public and kind of like do this thing on a stage. But yet all he wants to talk, all he's feeling is other thought, you know, other feels, and then how he's able to like turn that around and then bring it to the stage. And it's fascinating because we spend a lot of time alone with Mark and his cats, and I love his cats, and then how somehow even under this cloud of grief, he's really funny and he's really brave and able to bring that kind of thought process and then like transfer into jokes, which is crazy. And yeah, I mean, it just it's a real interesting look at how somebody who's all feels and is able to kind of like then puncture through that and really deal with it head on through being on stage, doing whatever, and just talking about it. This man is just, I mean, if I liked him, but I really like him now. Like it's just this doc has done a really good job of like making me appreciate him.
Yeah, I mean all of that, and yeah, it just I also because I do listen to him, he
Yeah,
shares a lot in his podcast, so I felt like it was an even deeper look because I was like, I feel like I do in a way know like almost everything about him and what he's
yeah.
feeling, but I feel like this, if you're a super fan, it so gives you even more depth because Liz, I like seeing him in his younger years too, and him giving context to like the person that he became, or like what led to where he is now, was so fascinating.
Yeah.
And then he talks about his father's dementia a lot and his, you know, his relationship with his parents growing up. So just seeing that photo, the
Uh,
family photo, was like absolutely mind blowing. I had to like hit pause and just like stare at it.
I mean, he was cute back then. It was kind of like this. I was like,
I
I'm
mean,
like, I'm like,
I yeah, because in my head he's like forever this 55-year-old man.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I was like, he kind of has this like Richard Lewis meets Jason Segel
Yeah.
vibe. His voice is completely different. I was like, wow. Yeah. So just to see how he's just his evolution as a person, I feel it was like really, it just gave a lot of context. And
And then just like even the dementia jokes, I'm sorry, they're hilarious. Like I don't want to, it's like it's so wrong, but at the same time, I was like, wow, this guy is so smart at being
yeah,
able to like kind of really find light in this like in these dark, you know, and it's just he's a gem. And you know, I don't realize like how I mean, I know he was popular, but like he sells out like everywhere he goes to now. He's just
yeah,
like he's doing like multiple nights in like big theaters and it's just
yeah.
and the
Oh, I
people
was at that BAM.
did
I
you
was in the cheap
really?
seats. I was in the cheap seats though. I was like, can I see myself? But I think I was like where we were sitting, we were off camera.
Oh my God.
But yeah.
And was it, I mean, that the band performance, it was a tight set. So like what did it feel like? I don't know, like what was it like to kind of be there and is it emotional when you kind of experience a Marin kind of comedy show these days?
Yeah, because it was he was filming the HBO, wait, it's HBO, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He did two I guess they always do. I can't remember which one I was at, if it was the first one or the second one. Um, but yeah, it was tight. And I mean, he's such a pro. It was like, because sometimes you go to those and they have to stop and like redo something.
Yeah.
But I feel like with him, it was just like, I forgot they were filming. I thought I was just like
Oh, that's
watching. And
awesome.
yeah. And
That is
he did, yeah, he shared a lot. It was like, it's a bit like because he shares a lot about how he feels about, you know, our political or fascist situation. So, oh, this was the one where he said that liberals are buzzkill, and then like that made a bunch of headlines. But
yeah.
that was the one, yeah.
And so this documentary is a wonderful showcase for this man. It also introduced me to more about this person and makes me like. But I heard the bad news. WTF is going to stop. He's thinking about
Yeah,
ending it. Is
he is. Yeah, he's winding down. I think this year because he's like, I'm tired. And then you saw his producer Brendan. I was like, oh, that's what Brendan looks like.
and
Like, 'cause I never watched podcasts. So I'm always listening.
yeah.
But yeah, so I know it's like an end of an era, but yeah. But I
I,
guess he wants to direct and he's acting so much. And so I think that's exciting for me to look at. Well, he always says that he's not a boomer, although technically he is. He's Gen X. That's how he considers himself Gen X. So I do love seeing people just like continue to challenge themselves and like grow their careers and like what fulfills them, like, you know, into this stage. So I find him inspirational also.
in a way, this documentary is almost also an end of the chapter of you know, like not that the grief will ever go away, but this like it is a way to kind of like process it. And so like with ending you know, kind of moving on, and then also finishing the podcast, this is all part of this kind of major plan, I feel. And I like the idea that like he's going to try new things after this. So if you want to watch this doc, which I mean, I liked it a lot. You liked it? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't
Thumbs
have
up.
to be a super fan,
Yeah.
like me. You don't have to, but I feel like, yeah, anyone can get something out of it.
I think so. And Are We Good is showing in theaters now. Next up is One Battle After Another, which is already showing globally. So in some way, it's like, why are you even covering this? But it's like, I haven't talked about it because I've been focusing on like award films. And the funny thing about this film is like, this film didn't do any of the film festivals. It just went straight to cinemas, which is like really fascinating because, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson just doesn't like to do film festivals.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, just put it out. Let me just deal with, whatever happens. It's shown globally. It's ready to break the 100 million mark, box office mark, and
Oh,
easily showing up in everyone's best of 2025 list. And the film is called One Battle After Another by director Paul Thomas Anderson. Now, for those who have yet to see this excellent film, why haven't you watched it? But okay, I'm not gonna traumatize you or shame you for not doing it. But it's inspired by the Thomas Pynchon novel Vineland, and brings the story to current day America, in which former political revolutionary Bob, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is basically getting stoned every day and just figuring out how to deal or raise his strong-headed teenage daughter Willa, played so wonderfully in her debut film performance, Chase
wow.
Infiniti. I mean, she's so good in this. In the background, Colonel Stephen Lockjaw is played by Sean Penn, and he's on the hunt for this family because of his past misdeeds with someone in that group, and everything comes to a head when he tracks them down. There's a lot more plotline that I just don't want to talk about, and there's performances like Tiana Taylor. I didn't even want she's awesome. There's everybody in this movie is awesome. So it's just there's a lot of positives going on. But the joy of watching this film is really kind of just going along for the ride because
Yeah.
there's so many cool twists and turns, literally and figuratively, and it's just a real wonderful film of this season. I'm so happy that this is out right now. Did you like the film?
I did. I liked it a lot. And I kind of went in like, because I don't always love Leo. I forgot how funny he can be.
Yeah.
And that I feel like is that kind of did it for me. I was like, oh, he's hilarious. I love seeing this guy as this like frazzled, just guy, like middle-aged guy who's kind of given up a little, he's just like, but he's raising a teenage daughter and he's just like so exasperated. And then like, I mean, I saw some headline. I actually said it to my friend too. I was like, that is a Gen X man. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
but then there were like all these headlines about how it is too. I was like, I guess maybe I should have written that essay. But yeah, I liked it. And Chase Infinity is amazing. Also, she was really good as Jake Gyllenhaal's daughter in Presumed Innocent too.
Yeah.
So I feel like she should always play like some elder millennial Gen X icon daughter.
Daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Regina Hall, I always love seeing her. She was just on Amy Poehler's podcast where she talks about the movie a bit, but she is so funny. So I love seeing her in this too. Yeah.
I've actually been watching the press tour of like, and then kind of putting out all these people out into the world and stuff, and like where they ended up placing. What's been crazy is watching Leonardo kind of show up on places that maybe like if you wouldn't expect, or maybe even like 5 years ago if they asked him, he would be like, hell no. But now somehow in the way the landscape of like press has kind of changed. For him to go on the New Heights podcast, but basically like the Kelsey brothers, they're just screaming like "fuck" like the whole time at him, and like Leo's just like staring back on like, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah, because he famously like hates doing press, and then
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
my Instagram algorithm keeps showing me because I keep liking it. Basically Chase Infinity doing the Zoom, like all the TikTok
yeah,
like type stuff, and then Leo's just in the background like playing along, which is the best way to promote the movie, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm falling for it. It's great.
I mean, just the fact that he even chimed in on The Summer I Turned Pretty, like the fact that he's Team
Yeah.
Conrad is just like, I mean, he has no idea what Conrad is, but like just the fact that he's like, who should I like? And then Chase is like, Jay Conrad. Like it is just,
Yeah.
you just know it's all her, and he's just kind of like playing along, and just everybody's having a really good time with this press tour, and just that. Did you see that one where like PTA like directed this other guy TikToker, like how to like do the shot where it starts low and then when it reveals the whole
Oh,
audience is like and like
no, I have to find that.
and
Okay.
it's so funny because it's basically like PTA's directing a TikTok now, and it's just like it's like, can you
Oh,
imagine?
that's good.
It's really good. And
Yeah,
so
that's good marketing.
so the whole press tour is just it's just so
Yeah.
much fun. But you know, outside of that, it's just people are so the film I feel officially, not that it wasn't before, but he really is PTA is now auteur level at this point. It's just like everything he does is now on this next level thing. Um, you have nerd boys going like, which version are you watching? Which screen are you seeing it
Totally.
on? You know, and like my friend literally posted like I saw it on VistaVision, which is over by Union Square. That's like the one screen that we have in town. And so and but what is also fascinating is that like, you know, this was written a while ago, but it really covers the current political situation
Yeah.
and it's just it's a real third finger to you know saying no to oppression and injustice, and it's just a really political
Yeah.
movie, but at the same time it's a father-daughter story, which I think is so beautiful, and I it's a lot, and he somehow manages to put all of this together, and I think it's just it's fascinating. I'm like I'm a fan. It's already talk about best picture, best director, best actor. Like there's a lot of slots that easily can be filled with this, but you know, I just love the fact that I'm constantly surprised at the type of movie that PTA makes, and this one really threw me like in for a loop because I forgot how talented he can be in the action realm, and there's elements because like, the last one was Licorice. What was it Licorice
I didn't see that because I didn't want to see the the Asian.
oh
Yeah, that because like everyone was like that just totally took me out of it. I was like,
oh
yeah,
yeah, you're like I'm not gonna
I'm not gonna see
got
that.
it got
I
it.
don't want to upset myself.
It's
So
good.
I
It's
haven't seen that. I like Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. I mean, again, he's just a really prolific filmmaker, and this one is like this is a man at the top of his form. So if you haven't seen this film yet,
Yeah.
go, please
Good.
go. One after another, showing everywhere, all at once. Now, I wanted to talk about two quick films, smaller films that are out at the moment that I felt like would be fun on your radar. First up is the German film Köln 75 by director Ido Fluke, telling the real life story of Vera Brands, who at the very young age of 16 started her career as a concert promoter, but not for rock bands, like the cool thing at the time, but instead for jazz music. And it stars Male Emde as the young Vera. And basically the film sees her audacious beginnings booking jazz acts in Cologne, and then setting her sights in 1975 to get the iconic jazz pianist Keith Jarrett to the Cologne Opera House for a once in a lifetime performance. And like it was they in the film basically like you know no spoiler, but like there was a show before, so they had an opera show, and then the timing was 11 o'clock onwards, and you had to book a 1,500 seater for this man who's just going to play spontaneous jazz with just a piano on a stage. Now, nothing works out the way that it should in this situation, and Vera has to juggle making the artist happy because the piano's not the right piano. She has to get the venue to tune it because it's completely broken, and she has to deal with her feelings with an abusive father who's coming to the show and ready to watch her fail. He's just like, there's no way that you're going to be able to. So it's like there's a clock going on. So there's all of this stuff is going on in this one kind of moment. While all this is going on, you get to see Keith Jarrett, was played by John Magaro, who is fascinating. I love where he shows up. Like you just never know where he's going to come. And he's the American jazz pianist who would then, part of history, would go on stage and perform basically with no music, and it's basically he just touches the keyboards and then the whole performance would come out of this thing, and that was his magic. And on that particular night, recording was made, and it was titled the Cone Concert, and actually remains the best-selling piano recording in the history of like releases. So this was a big moment in kind of jazz music, and it was put together by a scrappy young girl who just like saw Keith in a performance somewhere and decided that she was gonna like balls out and kind of like do 1,500 like performance, which at that evening sold. So it's a fun film. It's kind of it's one of those things where everything's going against her, but you're just watching this one young woman like hustle her way into like success, and I feel like that's always a good reason to watch something, and it just helps that like our leads are really good in this, and so it's just a really fun, compelling little like film that I thought would be really fun to see. I mean, does this sound of like
Yeah,
would you watch this?
you have sold it to me. I do love, you know, young women getting it done situations. It also personally speaks to me because I did have to play piano
Oh
as a
yeah,
child. Yeah, my father always really loved like, classical music concerts and stuff. I also used to work in events, so and PR, so I think it'll probably watching her get it all done will, hit me personally. Um, and yeah, a family movie too, some drama. That
yeah.
sounds,
I
and
mean,
I love John Magaro, so he's great.
yeah, he's really good in this, and but his role isn't that big, but it is enough to make an impression, and you get like a quick understanding of like who this performer is, and he's just quite yeah, he's not the perfect person, and so there's a lot of darkness that exists in him. What's also fascinating is like Vera is now she runs her own record label. She's one of the biggest promoters
Okay.
in
That's amazing.
and
Okay.
so it's a real tribute to just a young girl who just didn't know any better and just kind of made she just wanted it and she made it happen.
Yeah.
So it's super cool. Cone 75 is showing now in a theater near you. Up next is Good Boy. It's a horror movie directed by Ben Leonberg, which is special because the lead in the movie of the director is this real dog Indy. And what makes Good Boy interesting is that it's told from the perspective of the dog. And he really is the heart and soul of this film, and it's a horror movie. And basically, Indy, I know that face. This is why like almost 5 million viewers like clicked on it, and they're like, "What happens to the dog? He better not
I
like ruin to the like dog better live by the end of this."
I
It's like
know.
everybody's like so
I'm very
traumatized.
stressful.
I know. So basically, the story is Indy is brought by his ailing owner to a creepy family home in the middle of the woods because good idea. And then while his owner's kind of dealing with the possibility of the disease returning, Indy discovers that they're not the only ones in this house, and there might be other things lurking in the basement and all that stuff. And so Indy has to like kind of protect his owner and just kind of also figure out like what's going on at the same time. The film is clocked at 73 minutes. There's not a lot of fat here. It's a really like kind of like simple, movie. And basically it boils down to this performance by this dog who's just, he's got the warmest eyes and he's just like, you just want him to like be okay. And he
Yeah.
really just wants to make sure that his owner is well. And he knows that there's something wrong with the owner too, but obviously, and so there's a lot of emotion going on here,
Yeah.
even in a small performance like this. And so it's very interesting to see a film that's like focused this way, and it's basically like a lower perspective, so everything's looking up, that kind of stuff. And so it's a real like technical movie, if you will. And is it hard? Sure, but it really is the heart and soul is this dog, and you just want to make sure that nothing better happens.
I know.
Like,
Sounds a little stressful.
would you
I
do you like
think
horror movies, or is that any like?
sometimes. Sometimes I think I like the sort of psychological horror movies a
Yeah.
bit more. I don't really like gory, like slasher type movies. Unless it's a comment, like a dark comedy, then maybe, but yeah, it's not always my thing.
How do you feel about animal or children in peril like themes? Is that something like?
Yeah, that's also don't really, those are hard for me. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to do this one. But yeah, animals in peril, yeah, don't like Napoleon. I did not like what was happening with those horses.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, didn't like it. But yeah, it sounds interesting though, like especially as from a technical
Yeah, I
level.
feel like if you nerd boy it, if you kind of come in
Yeah,
from like a technical kind of,
yeah.
so it is fascinating because the so the director is his real owner, and then the producer is the wife of the, and so they were
Uh,
basically like cajoling this dog to be like to do the whole performance and make sure that he wasn't traumatized while making this film,
yeah,
because obviously there are things that happen to around him that like could
yeah.
be a jump scare even in real life, and so I think I'd actually be really curious to see a behind the scenes like footage of this to see how they kind of like create the mood for this animal, and see how they kind of, you never see any of the humans' faces, which is really fascinating. So the whole film literally is from the perspective of this dog, and so it is again, it's a technical movie, but it's interesting enough. Like I was like the whole time watching.
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
film, which is great. Sometimes
Yeah.
you watch these and you're just like, oh my gosh, just kill somebody already. Like this is not. So
Just
the fact, just the fact that like I'm really like engaged in the lead is a success in itself. So I would say go check out Good Boy if any of this sounds interesting to you. But you know, I love horror, so I'll watch any type of
okay.
madness.
That's
Let,
thinking. Okay.
let's go to TV. You know, and first up is actually a UK import. And since I'm a huge fan of this person, I really wanted to talk about the return of the comedy Juice by comedian, actor, director Mawan Rizwan, making a name for himself as a YouTuber and then moved into comedic roles in shows like 2 Weeks to Live, and then as a writer for Netflix's Sex Education. But in 2023, Rizwan was finally able to showcase all of his talents, starring in his own series Juice, based on this Edinburgh Fringe show talking about his family and being gay in the UK. Now, in series one, Rizwan plays Jama, navigating relationship issues with his new boyfriend, Guy, played by the always wonderful Russell Tovey. And he's also juggling his wacky family, played by his real life brother, Naban, and his mother, Shabnaz, who's now become a bit of like an internet sensation. Like she's kind
Yeah.
of like she's super popular. And so what makes Juice so good is the kind of way, the visual way it's presented. It's super surreal nature of the show. It's literally like a colorful like explosion like everywhere. And in season two, the baseline is will Jama and Guy kind of come back together again, because at the end of season one they broke up. And so you know, is he able to ever go into an adult relationship? Will his family ever back off from the craziness? Will Jama lose his inner clown in search of adulting? And so it's kind of a low stakes show, but it is one of the most refreshing shows out at the moment. And I love his point of view, and I love
Yeah.
his presentation. This guy is so talented, and just I'm a stan. So did you know him beforehand?
I did, yeah. I'm obsessed with him and his brother Noan. And I really think it's because of Instagram, and their fashion, because they both have
Great
the most
style.
amazing fashion. Yeah, great
Yeah.
style. They work, like brands will have them, like designers will have them at their shows and stuff. And then I watched Industry the first episode for Navan, and then this character spoiler died, and
Yeah.
then I was like, I'm not watching this anymore. So yeah, so I've been just following because he was in a movie with Riz
Yeah.
Ahmed. That's why I he was on my radar, and then I started following him on through Instagram. And then yeah, and I've been wanting to watch this show since the first season, but we don't have it here. And I tried to go to a festival to watch it, and I got the ticket messed up or something confused, so I was not able to see it. So thank you for the secret link so I could watch one episode of the second season, and it was exactly what I was hoping it would be. Yeah,
It,
it's
he
yeah,
definitely
he's
has his
like
he's got such a
yeah,
wonderful perspective, and also there's like an innocence to it all. There's something
yeah,
so like joyous and childish, and I think that's like he really taps into all that stuff. um and then the jokes are kind of broad jokes. Like they're not like word haha. They're more like stupid. They're like, oh, he's gonna get himself in this situation where he's gonna make it, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so it's just kind of super physical, which I appreciate.
yeah,
It's like I Love Lucy kind of like happens through the you know, like through the world of this man, and
like
I love it. I think it's so fresh, and I wish that this was showing somewhere in the U.S. Unfortunately, the only place you can watch it is on BBC iPlayer. So come on, platforms. I just like, you know what?
no,
If
bring it
it
over here.
bring it over here, and honestly, it is just I'm sure if you go online, there's other ways to watch this show, but like I just would prefer that it gets the whole like proper treatment on a streamer here, because yeah, I
Yeah,
think I'm a fan. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. And so if you get a chance somehow, or please check
highly
out
recommend.
Juice.
Yeah,
It's really good.
yeah,
Up next is The Lowdown, showing now on Hulu FX in the US and Disney Plus globally. Created by the talented writer-director Sterling Harjo, who made the excellent Reservation Dogs, which won so many awards. Lowdown is an 8-episode detective noir bringing Ethan Hawke to the small screens as Lee Raybon, a writer or a true historian in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that specializes in exposing the truth, always to the detriment of his body and face, because he keeps on getting abducted and beaten up when he gets too close to things. This man is not
Yeah.
prepared for like delving into like the darker side of the of
No,
crime.
he's
Um,
really not.
for
Yeah.
his latest article, he's convinced that the suicide of a member of a wealthy family is not what it seems, and he decides to dig deeper. And along the way, there's like an amazing cast of characters, including like Jeannie Triplehorn, who plays the mysterious widow, Tracy Letts, who's just such a solid actor, and he plays a dodgy businessman, and plus his family members are kind of involved. It's it's a noir, but it's a really interesting take on it because it doesn't. I don't know. I'm really fascinated with it, and the tone of it is hilarious, but also not. I mean, it's pretty dark at the same time, and it's Ethan like doing. He's so scruffy. Like he needs a
Yeah,
shower like all the time.
he's another Gen X man and having a bit of in a crisis. But yeah, no, I love reservation dogs too. And I love the little reservation. They're like little reservation dog Easter eggs in there,
Yeah.
like throughout, which is kind of fun. Yeah, I really want to know why Starlin Harjo went from like I feel like this from teen like a really revolutionary teen show, and then now the show is like centered around like three sort of Gen X icons
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
or yeah, because like Gene and then Kyle MacLachlan
Conor
plays
McLaughlin.
I
Yeah.
guess her brother-in-law, I suppose.
Ethan's
Yes,
definitely
and
having a moment right now. He's getting buzz around his performance in Richard Linklater's film Blue Moon. And then now we get to see him in all his scrappy physical. It's physical. It's a very physical performance too
yeah,
in the Lowdown, and so it's really fun to watch him kind of like flex both aspects
yeah,
of his talents and skill. It's a proper noir, and it's a real joy to watch on a weekly basis because it's Hawk at his best, and it's just so. I was invited to a screening of the premiere, and it was at BAM. And Ethan lives very close to BAM, and so all I could think of was just that
yeah.
everybody just walked over from their homes to like kind of.
You probably did.
They probably did, and they walked back
I've
afterwards. But
heard he does like he's just like a regular guy because I've heard stories of like people who are just like at the bar nearby and they're like, oh, and Ethan Hawke came in and then we were just like chatting at the bar. And then when he used to live in Chelsea, I remember because I used to work at Chelsea Piers, but he would just come and play basketball with
yeah,
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like he's just a regular dude
he's a regular dude.
walking around the neighborhood,
Back when he used to live on my street on 13th Street, and there was whenever I would like be, I'm always late. So let me just preface that, and you know this right now. You literally know this right now to be true. And so I would like be rushing down the street, and then I'd look up, and there was always a guy in a tank top and denim shorts watering like the tree in front of him, and I'm just like, oh well, that's nice. And then he'd always look up, and I'm like, what the and it's always Ethan Hawke.
Like,
And so I when I finally met him like for an interview, I would like regale this like I'm like almost I would always see you, and he's like, oh yeah, but he didn't want to talk about it because he was no longer married to the person that he lived in
oh,
that house with, and so
right.
not the best of
Awkward.
times, awkward. But I just still was like my verbal diarrhea came out. I'm like, remember when you used to like water your tree like on 13th Street, and he's just
In
like,
your ex's
yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yes, thank you. And I'm like, oh, bye. Like such an idiot. Anyway, so the show's great. I'm so happy this is at like I'm so happy he's having this year. It's like a really cool the Hakkassance, like
Yeah.
it's real. It's and so if you want to experience it, the Lowdown is now showing on a platform near you. Finally, I wanted to talk about the return of the Japanese series Alice in Borderland, showing now on Netflix. It's based on the manga by Haru Aso, and basically Alice showed up on our screens before Squid Game, and so people, of course, Squid Game became Squid Game, and then they like discover Alice in Borderland. They're like, oh, what's this Japanese show that like copied Squid? And it's like, no guys, Alice came before Squid, and like somehow Squid like won the battle. But still, Alice is such a wonderful show. It's a similar premise where a group of people find themselves like in a parallel universe where they have to play seemingly childish games, but with life or death consequences in order to like get out of it. And in true Japanese fashion, showrunner Shinsuke Sato created an extremely brutal and violent world where you fall in love with the characters, and a lot of them are really manga-esque, which I think is also like a fun thing about this show. Like they even present like those Japanese manga where they're just, the girls come out in a schoolgirl uniform, but she kills people, like, because she like hates it. Like it's that whole thing. And so from a nerd boy standpoint, it's a really fun show to visually watch. There are references to Battle Royale and Cube, and so these are things that like I kind of grew up watching, and so watching a show like Alice really tapped into my visual kind of joy of watching these type of things. People killing each other type shows. And so I mean, you already said that you don't really like serial killer type films, and I'm assuming this is probably not your jam.
I definitely watch like serial killer mysteries for
Yeah.
sure, but yeah, I don't know anything about like manga or like anime and all that. Yeah, so this is a genre that is sort of like I'm not very familiar.
I think also the Japanese style gets a little bit cartoonish, whereas like Squid Game definitely lies in a reality. Like the characters feel real to you, even though they're like put in these crazy situations. But like here, maybe even the dialogue and the performance style gets a little bit manga-esque, which is like just larger than life and stuff. So you always know that this is a bit like not real, and so that kind of maybe takes away from the uber violence or the uber craziness that like happens on your screen. In season three, our two leads, Usage and Arisu, who escaped in season two, spoiler, but for reasons I don't want to get into, they go back. I mean, like, if I had a choice, I would not go back. Come on, it's just like you already experienced 2 years, 2 seasons of like almost dying, like every episode, and then why would you? Whatever. I don't want to judge them, but I am. And basically, the games are harder, and the fact that Arisu is pregnant makes it even more important for her to get back, and so. The only kind of the thing about a show like this is almost it gets like same another season kind of thing, and you don't want to like let it get boring. And so I feel like the showrunner really tries hard to like make this one a little bit different from like the previous seasons. There's also a theme that like perhaps the reason why people don't make it back is because this world is actually purgatory. And so a lot of the people that survived woke up in hospital beds because they were in a coma or whatever. And so there's this kind of a situation which, I mean, it can get kind of interesting in that sense. So you can kind of delve a little bit deeper if you want to. But I like this idea that maybe this is purgatory and that these tests, as brutal as they are, actually mean something bigger, moving on or kind of fighting to survive. Literally, do you want to fight to survive to come back to the real world? Or do you give up and just kind of like move on to wherever? It's a crazy tense show. But the backdrops are so wonderful from a set design point of view. Great. Oh my gosh, like huge. I mean, it's Netflix money. So they're able to like recreate like Shinjuku, like that whole
Oh,
crosswalk and
yeah.
and actually in this season, the finale may be in this area, which is a huge space. If you've ever been, it's just like that multiple buildings and that crosswalk where thousands of people walk on a daily basis. How they've managed to like do a big set piece there, it tells you how big the show really is. And it's a global hit. I mean, it's number two, I think, right now in the global Netflix charts, and just the
Wow.
viewership's high. So there's a lot of people that like kind of, but if you've never seen it, we're now in third season, so that allows you to kind of like start from the beginning and kind of 3 seasons of this kind of setup. It's showing now, and I know I just feel like if this sounds interesting, really press play because of course we've got all these other shows that you can watch like Diplomat and all that stuff coming up, but like why not try this out and hopefully what we were talking about today has given you like a nice well-rounded look at like the world out there, and maybe you can kind of check it out. So that's all I have. These are the shows that I wanted to talk about, and like there's others, but I feel like this is the ones that thank you for coming on. There's a lot of shows that I made you watch this episode, and I knew that when you texted me, you're like, Stevie, what is all this? And so I apologize in advance.
Yeah, I was like, because I do watch a lot, but I was like, these are ones that I haven't watched. But thankfully, I did watch the movies. Yes, and I have been wanting to see Juice, so thank you for that.
You're
And
welcome. You're
I
welcome.
will be going back into your files to watch the other two episodes
Nice.
that you've been
Are
there.
are you are
Like,
you like what are you working on now? It's always fascinating to hear like what kind of projects you're on because it's such a fascinating world that you kind of like exist in.
really, I have a couple, well, because it's Oscar movie season, so I have a bunch of uh costume design stories like based like about yeah, a bunch of movies that are coming out. So I've been running around the city, like going to screenings. So, but it's been fun, like the Bruce Springsteen movie, Delivery from Nowhere. Those costumes will be fun to talk about. Frankenstein,
Are you talking to
Hamnet.
are you
Um,
doing the costume director for Hamnet?
yeah,
Oh, she's
Melanie
awesome.
Perez.
She
Yeah,
is
she's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm talking to her this week. So that'll yeah, and that movie is just like amazing. So I've been just been watching a lot of movies. Some of them quite just sad or just like depressing, but you know, because it's that time of year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been fun. Can't complain.
It is that time of the year. We will be talking more about award season moving forward. Maybe come Oscar season when the nominees come out. I'd love to come have you come back on and maybe talk a little bit
Yeah, that'd
about
be fun.
like your experiences with the people and maybe even like kind of break it down a little bit more for our audiences and stuff. That'd be really cool. But thank you for coming on. Thank you so
All right, thanks
much.
for having me.
Um,
Yeah, and then yeah, yay, like Asian A.V Club X, like whatever, never mind, synergy
I know
crossover.
it's our
With the
collab. I wish we had t-shirts for this. So that's
I
like
know. Oh yeah, we should do that next time.
we should do t-shirts and stuff. I thank you so much,
Right.
thank you for listening. And if you want to follow us, please go on our multiple, our Substacks, and follow Fawnia on Instagram and also on her Substack, Whatever Nevermind. Thank you.
Okay, bye.